All right, here we go. Okay. Hello. We've technically got a few more minutes before it is 8 o'clock in Atlantic Standard Time and 4 p.m. PST, which are the times that I announced. I'm also speaking to two cameras at once, so I've got my followers on YouTube. Thank you for all being here. We're almost at 1,000, which is pretty exciting. I started this YouTube channel at the beginning of the pandemic, which seems like a year, but it's actually 2. And then I've got my friends here on Instagram. Super grateful that you could all be here. And so I'm going to be looking between the 2 cameras this evening. So this energy forecast is going to cover a couple of sections of our lives. I'm just going to write them down for myself, but we've got love, our personal growth and development, family, work/business. COVID gets its own topic. The now and the year ahead. That was the now and the year ahead. And so those are the topics that we're going to be covering. And I have already tuned into my own guides, the prayer that I do every beginning of every reading. I've already tuned in. So this is going to be a mix of my cards and what I'm just directly channeling. I'll try not shake the table too much because I know that the YouTube viewers with the webcam are going to get way more of a shake there. Yeah. So we've got 1 more minute just to be respectful to those who really abide by time. I hope y'all are doing well. I hope some of you are going out in a safe way. Lots of Nova Scotia is shut down, and so it seems like it's going to be pretty quiet over there. And I am grateful enough to be in Costa Rica, so I am in a different realm. Okay, so 6 p.m. my time. I'm going to draw our card for the general year because I'm the kind of person who likes dessert first. And so I like to cover the ground rule and sort of the ground section at the top of our challenges and our to-do list in our life. Yeah, okay, so this doesn't really surprise me at all. I'm just going to make sure that we're getting both cameras here with the clear vision. So we've got the black snake. And the words that go with the card are grow your truth. This is from the illustrated bestiary by Maya Toll. Really stoked on this deck. So this is going to be not surprising for some of you, especially, my friend witches, my fellow witches, warlocks, anyone, wizards, anyone practicing magic and modern craft. We're talking about Kundalini here. We're talking about sacred life force energy and sacred, for those who don't resonate with sort of magical terms, DNA. We're talking about sort of life force creatrix type structure. And so in yoga and in Kundalini, we often talk about there being an energy channel that runs down through our spine into the earth and back up to the sky. And that is our sacred life force energy. And yes, this also does mean awakening of sexual energy, but that's like saying that a car is all about the windshield. It's really a small part of a very large concept. And so Kundalini energy is that the energy that is shaking the world, that is the same energy that creates life when women are able to transmute seed into human, that same sort of deep mother life force energy. This is what this card is coming up for. And so, I know that everybody is in a difficult aspect or a difficult spot in one way or another, whether it has to do with COVID or not. And this year is going to be calling for that deep womb reminder, that deep sisterhood energy, that deep awakening to work together, you know, whether you identify as male or you identify with masculine energies, which I'll get to later in the reading. It doesn't matter if you don't have a womb or if you don't identify with your womb. We're talking more about the values that go with that. So hand in hand, instead of climbing one ladder in front of the other. You know, making sure that everybody has, you know, is everybody buckled up? Does everybody have their backpack? That sort of question asking, that sort of checking in on your community and your family and your friends, that is the type of energy that I'm talking about. So it seems almost short to leave it there, but I do want to stick to sort of covering all of these topics, and I don't want to keep you folks here all night. So that is our general card for 2022. And before I draw another one, I want to get to this astrological aspect that I find really interesting, which is Venus retrograde. And we are in Venus retrograde until the 29th of January. And the primary message that's coming through from the collective, you know, I channeled the collective guides tonight. I channeled my own as a necessity, but I channeled the collective because I'm really hoping to reflect this as a whole. And so Venus retrograde until January 29th is going to be a lot about doing more research. And so some of you may have heard of Mercury retrograde. A lot of you may have heard of Mercury retrograde and are now starting to understand why it's not always about, oh, Mercury retrograde is bad, everything bad happens, I get to blame Mercury retrograde. And it's more about, you know, pausing and assessing before we make our leaps and commitments. And so Venus retrograde is of a similar cast. It is not necessarily about don't get into this relationship or don't connect with this person or break up. You know, it is about the pause before the beginning of the engine again, or the beginning of the movement again. It's, you know, life cannot be in growth all the time. It's just not how we work. So Venus retrograde is an opportunity to take a step back and to detach, perhaps emotionally or physically or mentally. You know, this could be through self-care or exercise, walking in nature, you know, hanging out with trees, anything like that, to give yourself a little bit of distance and a little bit of change of perspective so that you can evaluate from a higher perspective. And so when I speak about that, I envision myself, you know, sitting at the top of a cliff or at the top of a cave at a mountaintop and having that perspective of everything around me below, instead of seeing things from the perspective of the valley, which is where we live most of our days. You know, we live on the ground, we live in that present state. So climbing up that mountain, you know, going for that walk, doing whatever it is that gives you that small bit of space and detachment to reevaluate is going to be really, really valuable in the coming year, because we're shifting into a new type of patience, but also in this understanding of love and attachment until the 29th of January when Mercury retrograde is ending. Sorry, Venus retrograde, English. Quick New Year's Eve shout out to all my 90s babies, because the turn of 2022 means that most of us are going to have our oh my gosh, words are failing me tonight. Just all the planets. Saturn. Our Saturn returns are pretty much wrapping up. So if you're born, you know, 92, I believe it is, you know, there's more or less. Some people go a couple months later and whatnot, but mostly with the turn of 2022, it means that most of our Saturn returns are going to be complete. And so you can celebrate that amount of hurdles and sort of stair climbing that you've done in the past couple of years, 3-year transit. Because we are moving into a new position. Okay. I do want to, oh, there we go. I'm just checking in on my YouTube people. I do want to get to one more thing before I draw another card. So something that has been coming up in terms of balance, the Librans, all my Libra friends and sisters and brothers, you are going to experience a lot of success this year. You know, this year is a huge balance year. 2022, 222, angel number 222 is all about balance. It is about the one and the other, and that aspect that allows us to feel a sense of harmony within the balance that we've created. And so with that balance, there is a lot of abundance coming in. There's a lot of prosperity coming in. You know, all those of you who have been praying to Lakshmi or sort of doing Lakshmi chants or listening to that kind of stuff on YouTube, or just honoring prosperity, honoring, you know, your own God and goddess codes, doing all of these things is going to bring a huge rush of prosperity to us in 2022. But the flip side, and, you know, the balance comes from dark and light and that equal representation. So the balance there is at what cost, and remembering the sense of honor. I know in English, sometimes we don't really have the words to explain a certain feeling, but a sense of honor in the way that we are in integrity with ourselves and we understand ourselves and we don't give parts of ourselves away, and we maintain an internal sense of honor, as well as a sense of honor for what we see outside. You know, honor for the environment and the planet, honor for our fellow people in the grocery store lineup. You know, honor for the way in which, and sometimes chaos in which, things are happening on the planet is really going to help a strong sense of discomfort that has been hard to escape. Okay, I'm going to pull one more card. Classic Virgo, just referring to my checklist. Okay, so this one's for family, which, especially during the holidays, I know that brings up a lot of mixed emotion for a lot of people. A lot of us live very different lives from the people that we call our blood relatives, and that can seem really painful sometimes because there's a deep part of us, you know, the survival part of us, the primal part of us, that wants to connect with those with whom we share blood. And that is partially a safety thing and partially a ancestral thing. You know, ancestral lineage and sort of deep lines that trace back to where we're from to give us understanding of ourselves. And so it can be complicated. Okay, so that doesn't, yeah, it's funny. It doesn't surprise me. It seems to be what my theme is tonight. So I can hear people celebrating in the back out there. So there we go. Let's get Instagram to autofocus here. There we go. I think the words might be backwards for everybody, but the card is reading Sage. And the text underneath says, be devoted and committed. And this person looks very peaceful and is very connected and open in the way that they are sitting under this tree taking notes. And so when it comes to family, the most grounding approach that we can take is such a deep sense of ritual in ourselves. What do I do each morning that makes me happy? What do I do each afternoon that makes me feel like I'm in a good place? What do I do when I don't feel comfortable? Do I put on music and dance around? Do I take a walk around the block? You know, do I take a bath or take my dog out for a walk or, you know, play with my kid? What do I do that brings me back to me? And through example and through demonstration, this is how we will reach our loved ones and our blood relatives and the ones we call family. You know, leading by example, not trying to push our philosophies or our ideas, no matter how painful it is, not trying to give someone a pair of sunglasses, even though the sun is blinding them when they don't want to put them on. Strange analogy, but it is going to be imperative that we have such a strong understanding of our own needs before we try and access others. And by doing that, and by exemplifying that, that is how we will gain access. That is how we will connect to the ones we care about, is through example. And, if you are a parent, this is easily digestible because you know how much your kids pick up. And kids learn from example. They learn from seeing and from hearing and from doing. And so the more that you can be within integrity and hold that self-honor for you, in the way that you live your life and you embody your example, that is going to be the point of access. And the other thing I should mention about this card, if that doesn't seem like a plausible reality, maybe you just totally lose your sense of self when you're with them. I know that I have a very short fuse around my family, and I don't always feel like I can really control it. So the other aspect about this card that is significant is that it's in solitude. So whatever that means for you, whatever that means in terms of emotional detachment, or maybe you take more distance from them. Maybe it means that you don't force yourself to go to holidays that don't serve you. You have to preserve your mental health and you have to preserve your self-care. We are in formidable times, and it's not necessarily going to end in the way that some of us are still hoping. I think there's been a lot of acceptance that it's not so much ending as it is a change of perspective, and through that we will come out of darkness. This isn't going to be forever, but bottom line is that we're going to have to really be focused on self-care and self management and self-preservation. And so if connecting through example isn't accessible to you in terms of family, then distance is not necessarily going to be as destructive as we fear. How's everyone doing? Nice to see some of y'all. Interesting. Okay, so I already wrote this down before I pulled this card, but studiousness and sort of studying through observation and detachment. This is something that came channeled to me before I even started the live stream. This happens, often. Once you do your prayer, sometimes you just get the information. But a lot of us might be feeling trapped, and that might seem like an understatement when we've been in this situation and this pandemic situation and this altered reality for two years now. I guess technically it's 2 years, sort of beginning in February and March, but we're pretty much there. And so if we feel like we're here, shout out to my 90s babies, using the concept of Matilda, using the escaping, the desire to escape, and channeling it into something that gives us an out. And so escaping into books or escaping into new things. There are so many things we can learn through reading or through online learning or through, things that are safe and outdoor or from distance or from Zoom or whatever. There are still so many options that we have for expanding our reality and continuing to feed our souls and to feed what really makes us happy. Maybe you get into mountain biking or you start power walking or whatever. But really, expanding what you're studying in. That was not the best English, but expanding what you're studying, coming back to the sage that we just pulled, creating a sense of studiousness, even if it's studying the weather more often, studying clouds or studying the way that the trees change every year. These are all still beautiful, harmonious realities that we have, despite the fact that we're living in a pandemic situation. And so giving yourself an out, diving into an online course or diving into a book that is centered on a topic that you've never really heard of or you don't really know much about, or, diving into, if you're not into sort of that kind of nonfiction, diving into somebody's story, you know, subscribing to somebody's blog and listening to them while you do the dishes, or, you know, while you're driving, wherever you're driving. Giving yourself an out and giving yourself an exit hatch through exploration of new studies, new things that will challenge your intellect and challenge your perspective. And that doesn't have to be like a high and mighty type of complicated thing. It could be getting interested in one magazine and reading a magazine consistently to get a better understanding of, you know, like what the magazine is printing, or learning fun facts about what the content of the magazine is. Maybe it's about knitting or gardening or whatever, just giving examples. But we need to give ourselves an opportunity to escape, and it's got to be joyful and it's got to be enjoyable. And so picking up something new in a way that's sustainable to you could be really therapeutic. Okay, I'm going to take a little, not really a pause. We're still going, but I do want to speak to something that's an aside before I pull down our next card. I've got another friend who is a bit of a shapeshifter and truth speaker, and they brought up this stone, and it's interesting because it's been coming up for me as well. And I really do feel that it's going to be the crystal of the year. the stone of the year. You know, I have a video on this if anybody wants to check the video and get a better understanding of crystals in general. But tonight we're just going to focus on the task at hand. And so amethyst, which is a purple colored type of quartz, I believe it is a type of quartz. But this stone is really coming up as being the primary crystal for 2022. And what amethyst represents to me, and, you know, of many people of the collective, but I always like to say to me, because technically it is my my opinion. You know, everybody who's always speaking it's really just your opinion. So this is our home stone. This is the stone that you would gift somebody when they move into a new place, or maybe they have a new child and you want to protect their bedroom, or you know, you're sleeping outside somewhere, you're camping or whatever, and you want to feel safe and secure. Amethyst is what you want to go to. It is a lower level chakra stone, although it's purple, and, you know, people often represent purple with the crown chakra, but amethyst is actually a lower level chakra stone. It's a lower part of the body stone. So solar plexus, sacral chakra, and root chakra. Amethyst is about grounding you in where you are and acting as sort of a veil and a protective force in your sort of surrounding frequency. So it's got a far reach. A lot of crystals do sort of like small reflection. You know, if you have a clear quartz and you want it to sort of bounce off bad energy and hold in good energy, it's got a small radius. But amethyst, especially because it is a grounding stone and it is on that lower vibration, it extends further, a bit more like a mycelial network than a tree, right? It extends further along the bottoms. Although I do know tree roots are connected as well. But if you are looking to get into crystals, or you are looking for something that will give you a sense of stability, you know, maybe aid you on your quest to balance in 2022, amethyst is a great place to start. It is a great foundational stone to have in your purse, in your bra, in your back pocket, in your home, in your car. I keep one in my car. It's a great foundational stone to have around. So if you're looking to enhance sort of what you've got going on energetically for yourself already, amethyst is a great place to start. And it really does feel like the stone of 2022. So if you find yourself, you know, in March thinking that you might get into crystals, or you're interested, or you want to buy a new one, I would highly recommend going with amethyst. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be our our self-reflection card, but also our business card. So, run with that in however way you feel, because the self came up first, but business is coming up as relevant. So we're just going to marry the two and see what we get here. Whoop, there we go. Interesting. Okay, so here we go, my friends. 2022 work, business, and personal development is the hunter. And the text underneath says, track down your fears and desires. Sorry, Instagram homies, the autofocus is a little bit whack, but I believe you all can see that. And so, we'll start with work and business because it's more obvious. Every successful entrepreneur, every online business advocate, every person who is living their dream reality by working remotely in a way that works for them or whatever, or sort of building their own business in an entrepreneurial way. I'm not saying that's everybody's dream, but the people who have wanted to do that and have done it successfully will find this very obvious. When you are extremely uncomfortable before doing something, when you feel afraid, when you feel perhaps unqualified or small or worried about speaking your truth or your voice, that is when you have to aim and shoot. This is your time to be the hunter of your fear. And so instead of allowing your shadows to swallow you, you chase your shadows until you understand what they are. And you turn and you face them. And that is going to seem like an immediate no for a lot of people. A lot of us, when we sense discomfort, we think something's wrong and we back out. And that is a safety mechanism and it's totally natural. But in terms of business and self-growth as well, but we'll get to that. But in terms of business, especially, no matter if you're a nurse in the hospital or if you are an entrepreneur, like I said, or a teacher, doing the thing that makes you uncomfortable, regardless of whether it's for experience or sort of personal, like proving it to yourself. As soon as you do that thing, you've just opened about 12 new doors for yourself. So when we can turn and face or turn and walk after the thing that makes us feel like we kind of want to barf, we're totally changing our energetic grid. So I explain this to clients a lot, that when we have an opportunity or we have an option, we have a series of doors and a series of sort of chambers that we can choose from. But when we go and we do something that is outside of our character or sort of outside of our day-to-day, like challenging a fear, we shift the chambers that we've created for ourselves and we give ourselves more opportunity or different opportunity. And so if our souls are really working towards our highest good and desiring to be sort of the best versions of ourselves, which is really what our souls are, that whole sentence of our expression of we're just walking each other home. Our full soul expression is being our highest selves. When we create those new chambers by chasing after our fear, we're also leveling up in a way. And so it's your choice always to decide to go down that path or create more doors for yourself. There's no wrong way to live, but it's going to be a huge opportunity year for that kind of behavior and that kind of decision making. So, if you want to start a business and you feel like you're a phony or you feel like you have imposter syndrome and you don't think you know what you're doing enough, this is a really great opportunity to say, fuck that, and turn and face it and jump for that opportunity, because it could be a very, very simple step in an annual situation that is already supporting that path and supporting those decisions. And now for personal growth, this is something that is relevant to my own work, but also has been relevant since, really the beginning of the pandemic, which is chasing, let me rephrase, sitting and speaking and sort of sharing a bench with our demons and with our shadows. we hear the term shadow work, or, working with the dark goddess, or, we've got a lot of demons. But it's not about exercising them or sort of forcing them out of our bodies or forcing them out of our souls, or our habits. Like a lot of us have coping mechanisms that don't serve us, and they're not for our highest good, and they don't help us. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong. It's about sitting next to your shadows and getting an idea and getting an understanding of their shape and their quality. Can you get to know your shadows well enough to be able to draw what they look like? Can you identify them? If somebody was going to ask you, who are your demons, or what are your shadows? Do you know what they are? Because when you do, it gives you an insurmountable amount of power within yourself, and it gives you a type of compass that never loses its direction. It is unfailable because we understand why we do the things that we do. And so when we get to know our demons and we get a better understanding of why we are the way that we are, whether it was wrong or right, or preventable or not, or mistakes, or another's fault, it doesn't matter. What matters is having an understanding of why you tick the way you tick. And that includes all the dark shit. It includes all the stuff that's really uncomfortable and is really sticky and makes us feel rashy, or like we want to leave the room, or whatever, makes us stutter. Allowing yourself to get to know those dark versions, because we all have them, is going to create more harmony and sort of like intimacy with ourselves than we could ever realize. And that I am going to do a quick plug that this is the type of work that I'm working on primarily, is working with the dark goddess, working with our deeper aspects of ourselves, our darker aspects of ourselves. I am still planning to run my dark goddess course over the winter. I plan it to be 6 weeks. So if you are interested, then feel free to sign up. And if you're not interested, hopefully you took this opportunity to grab a drink of water or to tune out, and we'll let that pass. Oh, right. Okay. I definitely want to get to these two, and then I think we'll pull our last card. So y'all aren't going to like this, but maybe you'll be okay with it. But this is a message for my fellow white women. There is a song by a female artist named Joy Okuden. Apologies if I'm getting your last name wrong, but I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's Joy Okuden, Okuden. The song is called Look Up. I will post it in the notes on Instagram and on Facebook, so you can listen to it. And I'll post it on my Instagram story as well if you want to listen to it just from that. This is going to be it has valuable lyrics to help understand what I'm speaking to. But there is a degree of blindness that we carry, not, I don't even want to say not all of us, because I really do feel that we all carry it. And it's just about catching it and being aware that we do have it. Because awareness is really the heart of the first step of understanding our situation. But I'm referring to privilege, and the privilege that we have, and the power that we have, and the power that we have to step forwards and then hold our hands out and bring more with us, bring others with us as we ascend. No, I'm not saying that we have had sort of fair representation, or women in general have had fair representation in the world that we're having reflected back to us. But we have a degree of privilege and a degree of power that we are born into. And so being aware of that, no judgment, no sort of emotion in general towards that reality, but just having the awareness that we are born into a level of privilege, and understanding day to day what that means, because we have the ability to turn off the computer at night and turn off our phones at night and not worry in the same way as many of the other communities and sort of groups of people that exist in the world that have been fighting a battle for a very long time. So that is my short sort of bottom of the ocean, loving herald. I don't really want to call it a call out because it's more of a herald, but I'll post a song, Look Up by Joy Okuden. It's a really, really beautiful track. I highly recommend it. I am not at all suggesting that this is what she meant by this song. I will post that in the notes as well so that everybody is reminded that this is my opinion. But I do believe that it will illustrate my message a little bit more clearly. And the last thing I want to touch on before we pull our final card, which I do feel they'll relate anyway, but I just want to highlight 2022 as well as a clean break in the binary. So all of my, all of my friends who have a greater working understanding of gender will already know this, but being aware of, the polarities of masculine and feminine and sort of tearing down or deconstructing or sort of unstitching the understanding of what those words mean to you individually and where that came from. 2022, there has been a lot of love and a lot of explosion, and we're in the trans revolution, which is really wonderful, and we're having a lot of people express themselves as non-binary, and they feel like they can be themselves more openly, which is also really wonderful. But let's be conscious of our language and what do masculine energies mean and what do feminine energies mean, and where did I learn that from, and why do I feel that it's that way? Because when we understand what is true to us and what we really believe compared to what we've been taught, just like religion, it's easier for us to gain a more accurate understanding of what we believe. And when we do that, the realities of the binary and sort of the necessity for labels sort of dissolves. And so I'm not saying we need to erase the concepts of masculine and feminine. I'm an English speaker, so when I think of the yang energy and sort of like action and fire and movement and power and a lot of these things, power in an active way, I say the word masculine because that's what I have in English to use. And when I think of femininity and the yin energy of receptivity, water, the fluidity of water, sort of this like eagle eye of understanding things as a whole, weaving and connectivity. These are all things that they fall under the umbrella of femininity in English and sort of the yin energies, but those are just the words that I have to explain these expressions of energy. And so getting less attached to labels and getting less attached, non-binary is kind of like a good umbrella because we need to deconstruct our polarities. So that's the last sort of purely channeled piece of information that I have for you. It's interesting. I was going to pull from the animal deck, but I'm getting a call to pull from this one instead. So this card is going to pull it all into the center. This is going to be for the next 10 days to 2 weeks. We're going to pull it down to the microcosm, pull it away from the annual read, and pull it into our here and now, because as many of us are learning, presence is really the only tool that we have for a lot of what's going on in the world, being really present with what's happening in front of us or within us. And so pulling it down to the next couple of weeks as a forecast is going to be a helpful tool for moving into the beginning of the new year and the new understanding of the revolution and resolution type of January that we know. Cool. Optimistic. This is an optimistic card. Sorry, YouTube folks. This is still a little blurry. There we go. So Shield Maiden, I really love this card. She is a Celtic badass. The text underneath says make plans and focus, but this is all about preparation to, I'm getting two images at once, leap off a cliff that we already knew we were going off of, or sort of slide down a slide that we've been waiting for. So making preparation and sort of, I'm a list person. I like to write. I like to write things down. That is not how you have to prepare. There's a lot of pushing to constantly write lists down, and all it does is stress people out. So if you're not a list person, then ignore that. But making a preparation of sorts, making an altar, making wishes when you wake up in the morning. I wish for this to happen in my life. I wish for this to happen in my life. I wish for this to happen in my life. Writing your dreams down, or saying things that you're grateful for, and that you desire, any type of preparation that we can do to bring what we want towards us. This is what I'm feeling for the beginning of January and the beginning of 2022, is not so much I'm going to resolve to fix this thing about myself, but what do I really want? Libras, again, this like Libran year and this amethyst year and this sense of balance and harmony year of 2022, and this big prosperity, not necessarily money, but this big prosperity. Librans love beauty, and they love when things just like work perfectly. And, they have this sort of like playfulness and sort of like elvishness to the way that they see the world. And so allowing ourselves to create joy through asking for our desires and wishing for what we want and asking for what we want. A lot of the times the universe doesn't give us what we want because we don't ask for it. Not demand, but we don't ask for it. We don't ask for that support or that extra help, or for that thing to happen for us, because a part of us thinks we don't deserve it, but we'll never know if we don't ask. And there's a saying in a Indigenous novel that I really, really love. And it's a wise mother witch who talks about how if you make a wish that is general, you will never, ever attain what you want. You must be specific in your desires, because that is how you send out the correct frequency to the universe to be able to receive back exactly what you're looking for. Even if it doesn't take the exact shape that your mind had created, you'll still be getting exactly what you needed. And so making plans and knowing that this is an inevitable sort of success and a battle won is really going to be a helpful energy to pull into the new year. So thank y'all for being here. I'm super grateful to have everybody in this live. I will post the recording later on. And to close us off for the last night of 2021, I'm going to read the text that came with our very first card, which was our Kundalini snakes, Black Snake, Know Your Truth. And again, for all my med students out there, you'll notice that that's sort of like I don't remember what exactly the name for that is. It's like a the medical sort of symbol, but this is our text for the Black Snake. Many moons ago, in a garden far away, Snake slid up to Eve and said, "You have a choice." While free will isn't evil, it is complex. It requires us each to define our own moral center and know what we stand for. Without this knowledge, it is easy to steer off course or be misled by smooth talkers or slick ideas. We grow when we see through the rhetoric and acknowledge our own truth. Each true choice expands you until, as you outgrow who you used to be, your past begins to bind and itch. Black Snake slides in to remind you that growth requires release. She says, let go of what no longer serves so you can continue to expand into your true self. So that is all I have for y'all this evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Super grateful to have all of you listening. And I will see you all in the new year with the next reading that comes up on YouTube. Blessed be.